Elizabeth Montgomery kept this hidden throughout the filming of Bewitched. Did you grow up in the 1960s or 1970s? Then you probably recall Bewitched, a popular comedy that aired on ABC. It was the story of Samantha, a witch who married Darren Stevens, an average man. Despite her new ordinary existence, Samantha couldn't help but use her magical abilities to solve issues as they occurred. From September 17, 1964 until March 25, 1972, the show was one of the most popular on all three major networks. Despite its lengthy history and enormous popularity, even the most ardent fans are unaware of all of these. You've come to the right place. Discover some interesting behind-the-scenes information, facts about witchcraft that you may not have heard before. Are you ready to go back in time? Wiggle your nose and let's get started. Soul Sack's inspiration. Soul Sacks created the show Bewitched after seeing I Married a Witch, a fantasy romantic comedy, and Bell, Book and Candle, a romantic comedy starring Jimmy Stewart and Kim Novak. He was inspired to create the sitcom. Sacks was confident that there wouldn't be any copyright issues because Columbia Pictures, which also owned Screen Gems, which produced Bewitched, owned the other two movies. Elizabeth Montgomery's aging spell. Elizabeth Montgomery was a rising star in cinema and television in the 1960s. She began her career in 1953 and continued to acquire role after role on television and in films. She was in her early 30s when she earned the role of Samantha Stevens, the major character in Bewitched. Montgomery appears in a marketing shot for Johnny Cool, a 1963 film released soon before Bewitched began. Looking at Montgomery decades later, one could say that she employed anti-aging sorcery to seem so young. How popular was Montgomery during the run of Bewitched? She was nominated for Best Actress 5 times at the Primetime Emmys and 4 times at the Golden Globes. However, she never received either prize. The Darren to Be. Actor Richard Crenna had the opportunity to play Darren Stevens before Dick York approached him, but he turned it down because he was currently filming another project. Crenna appeared on the hit TV show The Real McCoys and was set to begin Slattery's People the same year that Bewitched premiered. Given that Slattery's People only survived 2 years, we believe Crenna would have appreciated a magical spell that allowed him to travel back in time and make that decision again. The Darren Syndrome. Dick York, who was cast as Darren Stevens, left the program due to a severe back ailment. He was able to work with it for a while, but in 1969 he was compelled to leave the program. Of course, Stevens' involvement in the show was not forgotten. Dick Sargent took over as the character. Changing performers for the same part after that became known as the Darren Syndrome. Cause of Dick York's back injury. Dick York had to leave the program due to persistent back pain. His replacement, however, was never addressed on the broadcast, leaving many fans perplexed. York had been hurt while working on the film They Came to Cordura, which had been completed 5 years earlier in 1959. York never fully recovered. In his own words, Gary Cooper and I were driving a handcar full of wounded men down the railway track. I was on the bottom stroke of the teeter-totter mechanism that powered the handcar. I was just about to raise the handle when the director screamed, "Cut!" and one of the wounded cast members reached up and grabbed it. I was abruptly and jarringly moving his full weight, 180 pounds or more, off the flatbed. My muscles on the right side of my back were torn. They simply snapped and let go. It was the beginning of everything: the agony, the drugs, the addiction, and the lost career. Darren's Return. Darren was absent for the show for 14 episodes after Dick York left. The public didn't see Darren again until Dick Sargent joined the group in the 1969 episode Sam and the Beanstalk. Sargent went on to film 84 episodes until the show's conclusion. However, audiences adored Dick York for his depiction of Darren. His replacement disappointed and perplexed many admirers. Dick Sargent was meant to be. As previously stated, Richard Crenna was one of the initial contenders to play Darren Stevens, but he declined the job. Dick Sargent was another actor who was approached for the part. Sargent, on the other hand, secured another job while the Bewitched producers were finalizing their casting selections. As a result, Sargent declined the post as well. Dick York was finally offered the part by ABC at that point, and as fans are aware, Sargent would eventually take up the job when York was forced to retire in a strange twist of magical fate. Ratings woes. During the Darren Syndrome event, the sitcom's ratings plummeted dramatically. Fans were disturbed to see a different Darren in the same role. The absence of explanation just contributed to the viewers' perplexity. During season 5, the show ranked 11th in the ratings. However, it fell to number 24 the next season with Sargent. The two Gladys Kravitzes. Two actresses played the parts of Gladys Kravitz, Samantha and Darren's nosy neighbor. Alice Pierce played the first, for which she received a Primetime Emmy for outstanding performance by an actress in a supporting role in a comedy. Unfortunately, Pierce died of ovarian cancer 3 months before her posthumous Emmy triumph in 1966. Sandra Gould took over for Pierce on ABC. Tammy Grimes as the Witch. Tammy Grimes was initially offered the part of the Witch before it was given to Elizabeth Montgomery. Grimes declined the position. She had a bright career and was in the early phases of developing her own ABC show, The Tammy Grimes Show. Unfortunately, her show only lasted 6 episodes. Elizabeth Montgomerys Pregnancy. During the show's 8-year run, Elizabeth Montgomery fell pregnant 3 times. In order to include her pregnancies in the novel, the writers were obliged to abandon several of their intended storylines. Because of this sudden transformation, the pregnancy story was given in a very natural manner. No disrespect meant. Darren and Endora were actually good friends. Samantha's mother, Endora, played by Agnes Moorhead, and Darren, Dick York, didn't get along on the program. Their conversation frequently resulted in some of the show's funniest moments. Moorhead and York, on the other hand, were close friends in real life. Moorhead was also a talented actress during Hollywood's golden age. She received 6 Emmy nominations for her performance on Bewitched, as well as 2 Golden Globe nominations for Best Supporting Actress and 4 Academy Award nominations. Samanthas Magic by Stagehand. There weren't as many high-tech camera techniques, CGI, or special effects in the 1960s as there are now, unless you've been living under a rock for the previous 50 years. So all of Samantha's magic techniques were performed with the assistance of stagehands, who moved various things off camera or employed simple camera tricks like speeding up or slowing down the footage. Even with limited technology, film teams discovered methods to make the improbable appear real. Samantha and Darren's House. The home from Bewitched was used in several films and is still there today. Gidget, a 1959 Columbia Pictures picture, was shot there. The home is now located at 1164 Morning Glory Circle on the Warner Brothers Pictures lot. According to a HuffPost reporter who visited the location in 2013, the home structure is still intact, but the exterior has been altered, making it likely to film new films there. Samantha's Nose Twitch Trick. When Samantha performed a magic act, onlookers noticed her nose quiver or wiggle. So how'd they do it for the show? Was it a camera technique they used every time? Nope. She was only wiggling her top lip, something Montgomery did in real life when she was frightened. Providing their own costumes. Sure, some people on a movie set are more crucial to the overall success of the project than others, but this action seems impolite. The production team provided the outfits, but only for the main actors and actresses. They had to furnish their own clothes for supporting actors. They genuinely brought their own clothing to the site to film in. Hopefully the producing company covered the cost of laundry. Where did Tabitha's name come from? Elizabeth Montgomery was the one who offered the name Tabitha for her imaginary daughter. She said she received the name from one of actor Edward Andrews' children, who portrayed Charlie Gibbons in 2 episodes in 1969 and 1970. Andrews' daughter's name, on the other hand, was spelled Tabitha with an A. It seems to be a simple repair, yet the I spelling persisted. Tabitha would eventually appear in over 100 episodes and have her own spin-off program. Tabitha's spin-off just doesn't work. 5 years after the end of Bewitched, ABC launched Tabitha, a spin-off about Tabitha Stevens working as a TV production assistant in Los Angeles. Most fans, however, didn't like the show as much as they enjoyed Bewitched. They were dissatisfied when Erin Murphy played Tabitha in the production rather than aspiring actress Lisa Hartman. The famous Sisters at Heart episode. Sisters at Heart, the 13th episode of the 7th season, was broadcast on Christmas Eve in 1970. Inner-city African-American 10th grade students from Jefferson High School in South Central Los Angeles developed the tale's premise and script. The episode is divided into two plot lines: Tabitha's black school friend, whom she refers to as her sister, and Darren's interactions with a bigoted client who becomes wary of working with Darren when he believes the African-American child is Darren's actual child, and thus the product of an interracial marriage. So, how'd the episode fare with reviewers and fans? The anti-racism of Sisters at Heart. USA Today called the legendary Sisters at Heart episode of Bewitched a groundbreaker for its narrative on prejudice in the post-civil rights struggle. AllMovie's Hal Erickson described the program as refreshingly free of the patronization that usually attended racially sensitive TV episodes of the period. The episode received the Governor's Award for Outstanding Performance in the Arts in the 1971 Emmy Awards. Montgomery has claimed that Sisters at Heart was her favorite of all 254 episodes. Aunt Clara's real-life doorknobs. Marion Lauren's character, Aunt Clara, was infatuated with doorknobs. Lauren was obsessed with doorknobs in real life. She has almost 1,000 in her collection. Maybe her real-life dedication translated in some on-screen fervor. Lauren won the Primetime Emmy for actress in a supporting role in a comedy in 1968. Elizabeth Montgomery's obituary. When Elizabeth Montgomery died, some obituaries contained errors. It was reported that she died at the age of 57, although she was actually 62, although several obituaries said that she was unmarried. She'd been married to Robert Foxworth since 1993. Montgomery had been battling colon cancer for years and appeared to be cancer-free at one time. Regrettably, it reappeared in March 1995. It had gone to her liver by the time it was identified, making medical intervention difficult. Montgomery elected to return to the Beverly Hills house where she lived with Foxworth rather than die in a hospital. Montgomery died in her home on the morning of May 18, 1995. They were drunk. During filming, some of the cast members were inebriated. Yeah, I was completely inebriated. Before you erupt in wrath or wonder how these Hollywood liberals could be so careless on the job, there was a logical explanation for their inebriation. Instead of using a non-alcoholic beverage in instances where cast members were portrayed drinking, they allegedly used actual alcohol. Hey, employment bonuses sometimes come from unexpected places. Two Tabithas. Two young actresses performed the role of Tabitha Stevens. Erin Murphy and Diane Murphy were fraternal twins. Erin was selected for close-up shots since she was an excellent actor. Her sister Diane, on the other hand, supposedly disliked the camera and was only used for distant shots. Battle of the Witches. 1 year after ABC debuted Bewitched, rival network NBC debuted I Dream of Jeannie, a fantasy sitcom. Despite being competitors, they were both produced by the same film production firm, Screen Gems. The original, like most imitators, was considered more popular than the derivative. I Dream of Jeannie ran for 5 seasons but never rose above number 26 in the Nielsen ratings. Cassandra who? Cassandra was going to be the main character's name at first. That never happened, since the title character we all know and love is Samantha. According to Herbie J. Pilato, a vintage TV author, the name was altered because Elizabeth Montgomery believed Cassandra was too connected to the evil witches of Greek mythology. We're all aware that Elizabeth Montgomery portrayed Samantha, but did you realize she wasn't the only character she played on the show? She also appeared in 24 episodes as Samantha's cousin, Serena, shown here in the 1969 episode Cousin Serena Strikes Again. The theme song. The lyrics of the theme song were never performed over the opening titles, but it did contain lyrics. The original theme music was a riff on the advertising jingle, See the USA in Your Chevrolet. What makes Chevrolet unique? The initial sponsor of the show was General Motors Chevy. Animation legends. Hanna-Barbera, one of Hollywood's most prestigious animation studios, created the animated opening scene for Bewitched. That's right, the studio that brought us the Flintstones, the Jetsons, Johnny Quest, Scooby-Doo Where Are You, and other masterpieces created Sequence. Furthermore, animated versions of the Bewitched characters debuted in the Flintstones later on. A fateful shopping trip. Agnes Moorhead was cast as Endora following a fortuitous encounter at Bloomingdale's with future co-star and TV daughter Elizabeth Montgomery and her husband, producer William Asher. Paul Lynde appeared prior to playing Uncle Arthur. Paul Lynde's cheeky Uncle Arthur became one of Bewitched's most beloved supporting characters, appearing in 10 episodes between seasons 2 and 7. Lind, on the other hand, first appeared on the show in the first season episode, Driving is the Only Way to Fly, in which she played Samantha's frightened driving teacher. Real animosity. As previously stated, Agnes Moorhead and Dick York were real-life friends, which made things awkward on the set when Dick Sargent replaced York. Moorhead, as tradition has it, made her opinions known on the day of Sargent's first table read, saying, "I don't like change," in front of the whole group. Ratings drop. Agnes Moorhead may have had a point. Bewitched dropped 13 positions in the ratings after Sargent replaced York. To be honest, this was most likely due to the show's aging rather than the cast change itself. Posthumous Emmys. Bewitched has the unfortunate distinction of having 2 of its frequent guest stars collect Emmy Awards for their posthumous performances after death: Alice Pierce, Gladys Kravitz, and Marion Lorne, Aunt Clara. Kennedy Connection. Originally, the debut episode of Bewitched was intended to begin on November 22, 1963. They were postponed, however, due to President John F. Kennedy's assassination. Kennedy became good friends with the show's producer, William Asher, by chance. High art. A replica of Rembrandt's painting, Your Girl with a Broom, hangs in the Stevens House set, a tribute to the show's opening sequence, as well as the overall notion of witches flying on brooms.